Hello my friends, welcome to Calming Sleepy Story. My name is Brian. I am an English storyteller. Tonight I share with you a chilling historical horror tale, The Ghost in the White House. Based on real-life encounters and whispers from the darkest corners of American history, this story blends fact with fear, tracing the ghostly presence of President Abraham Lincoln as it haunts the White House during World War II. So settle in, dim the lights, and prepare yourself for a tale that stretches across time, wrapped in mystery and echoes of the past. Let's begin. The Ghost in the White House. Chapter 1. A Knock at Midnight. The year was 1942. Europe burned in war, and the United States had just entered the global conflict after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Tension haunted every hallway of the White House. President Franklin D. Roosevelt paced his study, cigarette smoke curling like phantoms above his desk. An urgent telegram from General MacArthur sat unopened. But tonight it was not the war that disturbed him. It was a chill in the air that made his bones ache. In the guest wing, Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands had just retired. She had fled the Nazis and sought refuge in Washington. The room she had been given was the infamous Lincoln bedroom, where few dared sleep. At the stroke of midnight, 3 slow knocks echoed at her door. Knock, knock, knock. Startled, she rose from bed and opened it, only to find a tall figure standing silently in the dark hallway. He wore a black suit, a stovepipe hat, and a solemn expression. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. But the man did not answer. His eyes were sunken, sorrowful. And then slowly he faded into the air like mist. She fainted. Chapter 2. The Cabinet's Whisper. The following morning, rumors spread like wildfire through the West Wing. Queen Wilhelmina claimed she had seen a ghost, the unmistakable form of Abraham Lincoln. Roosevelt didn't laugh. He didn't call it nonsense, because this wasn't the first time. Members of his staff, maids, military aides, even Eleanor Roosevelt, had whispered of cold spots, disembodied footsteps, and the scent of pipe tobacco where none had been smoked. Some claimed to have heard weeping in the Lincoln bedroom. Others had seen the president's reflection in mirrors that should have been empty. "I've seen him," FDR finally admitted in a private meeting. Late at night, by the fireplace, he watches the war maps with me. And then he said something he had never shared before. Sometimes he speaks. Chapter 3. The Mirror's Warning. FDR's closest aide, Harry Hopkins, decided to spend a night in the Lincoln bedroom to debunk the nonsense. He brought a Bible, a lamp, and a pistol. At 3:33 a.m., Hopkins stared into the ornate mirror above the fireplace. For a moment, everything was normal. Then the reflection changed. Instead of his own face, he saw 2 figures. Himself, and behind him Lincoln's pale, gaunt visage, eyes hollow as if looking through time. Hopkins turned, heart racing. Nothing. When he looked back at the mirror, the second face remained. And then it spoke, not aloud but into his mind. "You must not repeat the sins of the past. War consumes men. Beware the cost." Hopkins fled the room before dawn, visibly shaken. Chapter 4. Echoes of Assassination. The White House Historical Association later uncovered a hidden journal in the walls behind a cabinet in the Lincoln bedroom. Written in Mary Todd Lincoln's handwriting, It described spiritual seances she had conducted in that very room after her husband's assassination. She had tried to reach him, but in doing so she opened something that had never fully closed. The journal ended with a final, frantic line. He comes not to speak, but to mourn. His soul cannot rest. FDR, ever a man of intellect and skepticism, now faced the unexplainable. Why did Lincoln's ghost appear during America's darkest hours? And what was he trying to warn them about? Chapter 5. The Haunted Map Room. As World War II raged on, the map room in the White House became Roosevelt's strategic war center. On several occasions, officers reported the lights flickering and temperature plummeting as they discussed plans for D-Day. Roosevelt would sometimes pause and ask, "Do you feel that?" It became known privately among staff as the Lincoln Presence. One night, when Roosevelt stayed late reviewing invasion strategies, a Marine on guard claimed he saw a tall figure in black standing behind the president. The figure was pointing to Normandy. Roosevelt simply nodded and said, "Yes, I see." The ghost vanished. 2 weeks later, Operation Overlord was launched, exactly as the ghost had advised. Chapter 6. Queen's Secret Letter. After the war, Queen Wilhelmina returned to the Netherlands. She refused to speak publicly about what she saw that night. But in a private letter sent to Eleanor Roosevelt, she wrote, "It was no dream. I know the face of Lincoln from paintings and coins. That was the man who stood at my door. I believe he watches over this house and perhaps this nation. But I do not believe he is at peace." The letter was kept sealed until 1972. Chapter 7. The Final Knock. In his final months, Roosevelt often gazed out the window of the Oval Office and spoke quietly to someone no one could see. "I hope I've done better this time," he once muttered. "I hope the Union holds." When he died in 1945, staff swore they heard 3 knocks echo through the White House at midnight, just like the Queen had. Knock, knock, knock. Some say it was the sound of Lincoln, welcoming Roosevelt into the spectral halls of the American dead. Or perhaps, it was a warning that whenever the nation teeters on the edge of darkness, he returns. And that, my friends, was The Ghost in the White House. A story where the past refuses to stay buried, and where the soul of a fallen president still lingers in the heart of American power. If you enjoyed this tale, please like, share, and subscribe to Calming Sleepy Story. We have more stories, strange, haunted, and historical, waiting for you next time. Until then, sleep well. And beware the knock at midnight. Good night.